What's up? It is another episode of WFAN Daily with your host, Pete Hoffman. And coming off a brilliant weekend in the NFL with the locals. We're not going to do much of that right now because I don't really know if anybody wants to dive in and dissect another bad weekend of the Giants and the Jets. I mean, if that's what you want, I can give you that, but I don't think that's the case. I think what's on everyone's mind is this: what is going on with the Mets and Yankees? Why do they keep recycling the other team's players? You look at the Mets; they've now signed Devin Williams, they've signed Luke Weaver. They are clearly interested in Cody Bellinger, who is a former Yankee. They have Juan Soto in right field, who is a former Yankee. They signed Clay Holmes, who is a former Yankee. They have Luis Severino, former Yankee. Go down the laundry list of guys the Mets have who are former Yankees, and it's like, what is going on? Why is David Stearns so obsessed with the Yankees? But then you look at the Yankees too, and they they bring back Paul Blackburn. Where did Paul Blackburn come prior to joining the Yankees last year? The Mets. The Yankees now also bring in Zach Short. Another experiment that David Stearns had a few years ago. And Ahmed Rosario, who is the actual one of the only moves that they've made that's actually like of impact, him and I guess Yarbrough, um, that's another former Met. Does it really make a difference? Here is why it doesn't. I would like you to understand the physics, the philosophy of maybe a baseball player, right? You have a city of New York. There's two teams here, okay? There's some people that hate New York, a la Ryan Helsley. He told you that. He said, I didn't think New York was going to affect me whatsoever, and I was dead wrong. And as soon as free agency hit, what did he do? I'm going to Baltimore. Nobody cares about baseball in Baltimore. Nobody cares about what I do in Baltimore. I am leaving. See you later. I don't want to mess around with somebody that actually cares about what I do. I'm going to go hide in Baltimore. Okay, good, Ryan Helsley. Good for you. Understanding his personality does not fit in New York. But then there are guys who are like, I actually don't mind it. And Devin Williams is one. Luke Weaver is another. Both, you know, Luke Weaver had a couple of years here in New York. Devin Williams had his first experience in New York last year. But even though most people will sit there and say Devin Williams was so terrible, he was awful, April was his worst month by far, worst month maybe ever he's ever pitched in his lifetime. And there was a couple other months too where he really struggled, but there was a point in time where Devin Williams actually righted the ship and pitched to his peak performance where he normally has been in the past, which is a top end closer in baseball. So if you're sitting there going like, oh, they just like washed up stuff from the Yankees. No, it's like, first of all, David Stearns had him before the Yankees touched him. Okay. That's the first thing. Second of all, second of all, it is a comfort level of I don't need to move anywhere. Like I actually live here right now. I don't have to get up and pack and go to a different area. Like a couple years ago, it was, I'm blanking on his name. It was Michael. I'm blanking on his last name at the moment. It'll come back to me. But the pitcher of Michael Tonkin, thank you, whoever told me. Nobody did. I figured it out myself because I'm a big boy. Michael Tonkin was a pitcher who the Mets picked up last minute. And they decided to claim him or put him on the roster. I think it was 2024, and they had him on the roster to start off. And then they dropped him. And then Minnesota picked him up. And then they dropped him. Then the Mets picked him up. And then they dropped him again. And then somehow he wound up in the Bronx. And like he was on like 4 or 5 teams in a year, and it was just going back and forth between waivers and all this other stuff. He actually stayed more time, I think, with the Yankees in the Bronx than anything else. Point is, it's like those guys are not looking. When you're a journeyman of some sort, You're not looking to go to LA, back to New York, then to like Colorado, back to New York. You don't want to do it. And again, these waiver guys, they just move all over the place. So that is the real reason why we're seeing so many guys stay locally who were once on the Mets or once on the Yankees. And the other thing is too, it's just necessity. Think about the guys that are going out there. Like, think about who the Yankees have picked up that we say are former Mets. Paul Blackburn, who was a journeyman, who's going to give him some, innings, here and there, come relief out of the bullpen, maybe a long innings guy type of thing. That is not affecting the Yankees pitching staff in any real way. They need someone to get by until Garrett Cole comes back, before Clark Schmidt comes back, before Carlos Rodon comes back. Paul Blackburn, he can pitch in New York. He doesn't mind it. He's still here. Screw it. Why not? Just pitch a few innings, and if he actually performs well, good. Zach Short is a low-level player. Like, he's a role player. That's what he is, a utility guy type of thing. And whether or not he's going to stick is another question, but there's no reason. Those guys get cycled all over baseball. Ahmad Rosario, same thing. They're talking about maybe him playing a little role at first base. So we're talking about and making jokes about, the Mets fan, the Mets just can't get the Yankees out of their head. Well, it's the same thing with the Yankees and the Mets, and it doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't. Think about the guys. Think about common sense of why Luke Weaver decided to stay with the Mets or decided to stay here. It's a low level for David Stearns. It's a low level bullpen arm that can perform in New York. He had a season last year. I know that he thinks he can right the ship. And for Luke Weaver, it makes sense to stay here. Why does he want to pick up and leave? He likes New York. He's a quirky guy. He got the feel. So stop with this Mets and Yankees. They just trading back and forth. It's not a trading. It's they just keep on recycling players. And it's no big deal. That's baseball, especially when we're talking about the relief pitchers and low-level bullpen arms or long relievers or backup pitchers or depth guys or utility guys. That's what we're talking about. Listen, Juan Soto was a big deal. Cody Bellinger is a big deal. If the Mets land Cody Bellinger, yeah, that's going to sting the Yankees fans. But it's not because they want to get back at the Yankees. I actually am upset that the Yankees didn't do something that was so obvious, which was go for Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso. I don't care that they were Mets. That made so much sense for the New York Yankees to go out and grab those two players. But they chose not to go in that direction. They're still looking for a first baseman. Right now, your first baseman is Ben Rice. Do you feel comfortable with Ben Rice? Do you feel comfortable with Ahmed Rosario? Would you have felt more comfortable with Pete Alonso? That was the easy move. That was the no-brainer move. But if there was something along the lines of, well, we can't go after Pete Alonso. He was a Met. Or we can't go after Edwin Diaz because he was a Met. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So I think both Mets and Yankees fans are smarter than that. But the ones that aren't smart enough and can't figure that out, time to just get off that nonsense of Mets can't let go of the Yankees and the Yankees can't let go of the Mets. It's over. It's stupid. It's a dumb argument. So let it go. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. But I had to get that off my chest because people do care. And I don't understand why. Let's get to the football real quick because we witnessed a terrible game at MetLife. It was, that was arguably, no question about it, Jackson Dart's worst game as a Giant. And people keep on saying, oh, this is perfect. This is playing out perfect. There's 2 games left. The Giants, listen, if the Giants lose to the Raiders, they are a lock. They are a lock to draft number 1, right? Even if they somehow win in week 18 and the Raiders lose, the Raiders beat them. If I'm correct, that means that the Giants are a lock with the number 1 overall pick. Do you really think that the Giants should trade Jackson Dart, somebody who, yes, had a bad game today, but they've had bad. Listen, we've seen bad games all over the place with J.J. McCarthy. I know he got hurt, but I don't think the Vikings are moving on just yet from him. This is his second year with the team. Do you really think that Jackson Dart is bad in a way that you should move on already after 1 year? This is not Josh Rosen. This is not a quarterback who has completely and utterly failed. The one thing that has actually worked out well with the Giants is their offense. Like, yes, the Vikings game that we just witnessed was not good. It was inaccurate. Balls were hanging up there for his wide receivers to get completely killed. And there's still a lot of drop passes. I mean, we can go through whether it's Darius Slayton, whether it's Theo Johnson. There's just a ton of guys that continue to drop passes, and it sucks because those can be game changers, and just they were in the wrong way for Jackson Dart and the Giants. But my question to you is this: has he done anything that has lost them all these games that they've lost? You can go back to Denver and say, oh, well, the interception, that was terrible. Yeah, that's on him. That was the one mistake that he made that was like, oh, can we take that back? That was a bonehead move. That was deadly. But the other games, and by the way, that was a bad play. That was bad timing. But up until that moment, they were amazing. The Giants were on fire. The offense was perfect, pretty much. And then the defense gave up. The defense was the problem. They gave up 33 points. So, yeah, it was a bad timing for the pick, but it wasn't like he played awful all game. And then that was a mistake. No doubt about it. The pick in the fourth quarter. But you can't sit there and circle that and be like, that play right there, that's why he's a bad quarterback. Because look at the entire 4 quarters, he was great up until that point. And the Giants were winning, but were blowing it not because of Jackson Dart. That's the point. You go back to other games that they lost this season, heart-wrenching losses, and it's like, it's not because of him. Yeah, maybe the offense, can't keep control. Maybe they do have to punt in the fourth quarter, but they got to the point of having the lead. Sometimes other defenses will adapt to what you're doing and prevent you from doing it. That's called playing a game of chess. You got to figure out your opposition. And the defense has blown so many games this season. I don't look at what Dart's done and say he's not good enough for the NFL. He's not good enough for the Giants. He's not good enough in New York. I think he deserves way more time. So for anybody to say, it's a perfect spot to trade Jackson Dart and then go and check out what Mendoza can be, you guys are fools. I am not, and I will never be, the type of guy who wants to just continue to draft the quarterback in the first round until you find the right one. I understand you may take a pick in the first round 1 year and it be a total bust. That sucks. But maybe that's why you don't draft a number 1 pick to play immediately. Develop him. You look at the Aaron Rodgers of the world. You look at the, Patrick Mahomes of the world. You look at Lamar Jackson, maybe not so much, but he was a last round pick in the first round. Look at all these quarterbacks that have been. Brock Purdy was a late round pick. You go through all these later round picks. You don't need a first overall draft pick. Yes, I get it. He's the best player. You should technically take the best player available with the number 1 overall pick. If Mendoza is that best available player, go for it. But he's not. He's the best available quarterback. Quarterback, I understand, is the best position in football. Let the Jets make that mistake. Let the Jets go down that road of, let's go get Mendoza. We're going to be amazing. And he failed for them because they know how to fail with first overall picks or second overall picks in the draft when it comes down to quarterbacks. Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith. You could throw Mark Sanchez in there, even though he was successful the first 2 years. You just can keep on going with how they failed their quarterbacks. So let them make that mistake. You drafted Jackson Dart. He looks really good. He needs to learn to protect himself, which everyone says. And today's game was not a great example of his accuracy in throwing. I get it. But there was also a lot of drop passes from his receivers, which definitely hurt. Overall, an awful performance by the offense. The defense kept them in that game. Brian Burns they had 2 opportunities to score a touchdown by their defense. And if it wasn't for an Abdul Carter in the neutral zone, they would have had 2 touchdowns. Instead, they just had the one with Tyler Newman. But Hoffman got that deflection and brought it all the way down, 95 yards. I mean, that's the difference in the game right there. You're talking about that's a win. So the offense played bad, yes. For the first time, yes. It was a bad game overall, but it was everybody. It wasn't just Jackson Dart. And Jackson Dart, more than anything this year, has looked great and has helped them give him a position to win. And you could say, yeah, but he hasn't gone out and won games for them. How many times has it been because of a possession from Jackson Dart that they've lost? Have they had the ball at the end of the game to win that game? Or did the opposition score and not give them enough time? I mean, you could go one of which way, 6 or 1 half dozen of the other. Either way, they're not winning. But it's not on Jackson Dart. So, and the Jets are just terrible. Someone asked me going into today, they go, I got 4 games to pick from. It was the New England versus Baltimore game. And I think they could have picked New England or Baltimore. I don't remember what it was. I think it was Baltimore. They wanted to go They could have picked Baltimore versus New England. They could have picked the Vikings versus the Giants. The Jets over the Saints. And then the last one was the Miami game. I forgot who was playing Miami, but they said the Miami game was they had to pick 2 out of the 4 for their knockout pool. And he's like, I think I'm going to go the Jets over the Saints. I go, are you nuts? Why would you do that? Well, do you know how bad the Saints are? But then I go, and this is the reality of it. Do you know how bad the Jets are? They got smoked again. 29-6. This team is not good. They show nothing. I keep on saying it. And I'm sorry to Aaron Glenn, but I don't trust you, dude. I'm not trusting you at all. If there is a coach available, it's a big if, but if there was a coach available, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, I don't really, not very interested in Mike McCarthy, but if he's available and he wants to be available, maybe we'll think about that. Bill Belichick. If those 3 guys are available, John Gruden, 4 guys are available, I'm looking for a new head coach because I want someone who can stabilize this franchise. And I'm going to keep on saying it because this is worse than what Robert Saleh put together. Now, you could say that this team right here, they got rid of a lot of players. Garrett Wilson's hurt offensively. They have no quarterback, blah, 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 blah. Hey, listen, this is the team. You still got to show me something. You still have a young quarterback that Aaron Glenn has to be able to work with. And you're going to draft a quarterback first overall and have Aaron Glenn be the head coach to him? I don't think so. I really don't. So if I'm at the Bengals and Dolphins were the other one, I said Bengals, go Bengals all day over the Dolphins. And I said go Vikings all day over the Giants. And if he listened to me, he's still in the knockout pool. If not, he will lose because It was the Jets over the Saints. Well, the Saints won and crushed. And the other game was, I believe it was the Ravens over the Patriots. And I'm like, hell no, you ain't touching that game. Either way. Not trying to say who's right, who's wrong, but I was right today. Happens once in a while. Point being is, you can't trust in Aaron Glenn to bring back this team right now. I'm sorry. It doesn't make a difference the draft class. It doesn't make a difference what Darren Muji does right now. I don't see anything with this Jets team that is giving me a sign of life. I understand that the Giants also lost to the Saints, and you could pinpoint the reasons why. There was a Jackson Dart fumble and a Cam Scatterbo fumble that were extremely awful and changed possession. And I think one went for a touchdown, and it just completely flipped the game. Those two plays in particular, Jackson Dart literally got a first down and then just dropped the ball on the ground. Yeah, you want to play, again, we want to talk about points where Jackson Dart blew games. That was one of them for sure. That was, to me, one of the no-brainer wins of the season. That was a win that they should have had. And they didn't because of turnovers. But that being said, the Jets, they don't have any life. They've won games because of their special teams. Does anybody realize that? Give that man a raise. That's what it comes down to. Special teams needs a raise. That's how they've won games. Not because they have an offensive explosion. Not because the defense stood their ground. It's because the special teams keep on scoring touchdowns for them. That's it. That is the only reason why. They keep making big plays, and everybody else keeps on sucking up. So, listen, either way, not the best weekend in sports again, as always, for the Giants and the Jets. I'll be back tomorrow with Moose. He's going to be on from 10 to 2, Monday and Tuesday this week, and then I am off. I'll be hosting my normal Saturday morning shift next week, and then I'll be off till, I think, January 2nd. I think that's what I'm doing. But I'll keep on doing these WFAN dailies. So just if anything breaks, just get ready. We'll do these. And thank you for listening. Thank you for following. You can always follow me at HoffWFAN. I have Instagram, I have X, and I have TikTok. I have all those, and I would like you to follow. And then if you haven't heard, January 5th, I will be part of the Craig Carton Show, which is going to be from 2 to 7. It's the Craig Carton Show with Chris McMonagle. And then I'll be producing that, and I'll be behind the scenes, maybe even a little bit interacting on the mic here and there as well. And I believe SNY is still going on from 4 to 6. So we're going to have fun with that. But that starts Monday, January 5th. Thank you for listening to another episode of WFAN Daily. I will see you guys mañana. Peace.